I've got a model imported into GibbsCAM here, and this model has been imported as a step file format. Step file is very common. A lot of your tooling vendors and tooling suppliers will have models available to be imported as step files. They usually come in pretty clean. And as you can see from this model, it looks pretty good. I'd like to talk about visibility of your models really quickly. So right now I have, there are 4 modes in which you can render a solid. So this first mode shows a solid with all smooth edges. If I were to go to the second mode, you can see the solid model, but it kind of highlights all the interfaces between 2 solid body faces. That's good to give yourself visibility, and you can get a little bit more detail out of any model that you have imported. The lesser 2 used visibility modes are render hidden edges, which kind of gives you a wireframe, and then there's a transparent wireframe. These last 2 modes aren't used very often. I'm typically a fan of seeing all of my edges, but most often most people will use this mode, which makes everything appear a little bit smoother now. Now, once you have your model in, anytime you select on your model, you select the entire model. Clicking off in the space will deselect any model that you have selected. Now you have 2 tools here, one of which is face selection. Now face selection, as you select on any face of a solid model, it'll highlight just that face and enable you to select it to do other things with that face selection. And again, if you hold down Control, you can multiple select numerous faces of your solid model. Click off in the space, deselects. The second tool we have is edge selection. Edge selection kind of gives you a wireframe view of all of the edges of your solid model. So you can actually select edges of a solid model, extract the geometry, interrogate geometry, do different things like that. And again, you can hold down Control and select multiple edges of any solid model. Deselect by clicking off into space. Now, having said that, we're here to talk about cleaning up models, because oftentimes you get a model and it's been run through a translation from a different CAD system, and it'll come in what I say is unclean. One way to tell is if I did turn on edge selection, you'll notice that my holes are broken. Any cylinders have a seam running down there. Now, if I turn on face selection, I can also see this when I select the inside of that cylinder, it only selects half of the hole. Same thing with these outer surfaces. They're all split in half, as well as the radiuses, chamfers, and inner diameters. You can see it without having the edges highlighted by using face selection. Now, if I did turn on my render with edges, you can visibly see those. And that's an artifact of typically step files most often will come in like this. Now, these, you can use the model with being quote-unquote unclean. Where it becomes relevant is if I were to go in here and put on my face selection, and I right-click and I want to extract these edges. If I extract these edges, it pulls the geometry all around the periphery of this selected face. 99.9% of the time your tolerance will be set to 0 there. You want it set to 0. And if I click Do It, I can extract that geometry. So if I put the model in the body bag, what you can see is I have clean edges on the periphery of that face, but all of my holes are broken. Now, that's 2 half circles with connectors. If I use Control L will turn on labels, and you can see that they're actually 2 separate circles connected at 2 intersection points. Not a huge problem, but it does, it will provide a little extra work if you want to drill these, or if you want to interpolate this. It could generate extra code. Not ideal to have split pieces of geometry like this. So if I hit Control L, I'll turn off my labels. I'll bring my model back out. And there's another tool here, Show Solids. So say I wanted to delete this geometry and start again. I could just click that and it hides my model. You see it's not in the body bag. It's actually just invisible on the screen, so I don't have to worry about selecting that. So I'm going to hold down Shift, Select, and I'm going to hit the Delete key and get rid of all of that. And I can turn my model back on, and we see it's back here on the screen. Now we have a couple of tools, and these are the go-to. As soon as I bring a model in, I typically run these tools to help clean up this model. So again, you can see all the seams in your holes. You can see all the broken edges on all of these diametric surfaces. So what I can do is I can go up to solids, or select my model first, sorry. Turn off a face selection, select the whole model, go up to solids. And the first tool I always run is remove unneeded topology. And then immediately after, I'll run simplify. Both of these tools will do a best effort attempt to clean up and simplify any model that you have imported into GibbsCAM. And it's always better just to run both of them. We don't need to know the magic behind the scenes of really how they do it, but regardless, say they do clean up your models. So if I click this model, click this tool, you can see immediately all my splits are gone. And then while it's still selected, I'll go to solids and I'll simplify it as well. Now I have a much cleaner model. And so to go back into face selection, I can reselect that face, right click on it, extract the edges, click do it. And then if I turn off my model visibility, you see I have nice yellow circles and clean holes. So those are a couple of tools that I highly recommend using whenever you import a model. It'll save you some time, it'll save you some work, and that's model cleanup. Thanks.